You hear it all the time, right? That AI can think, that it can learn and understand. And honestly, it sounds like we are right on the cusp of creating a brand new kind of consciousness. But what if I told you that the way an AI thinks has almost nothing in common with how you think? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and separate the myth of the thinking machine from its very real and very different technical reality.
So, let's just dive right in. The big one. Can machines really think? It seems like a simple question, but man, answering it takes us to the absolute edge of what we understand about intelligence and maybe even consciousness itself. This is the question that's going to guide us through this entire explainer.
So to really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. First, we have to define what real thinking even is. Then, we'll check out the genuine superpowers that AI has today, and they are impressive. After that, we're going to hit the wall of its fundamental limits. And that's going to lead us straight into the very real risks of its imitation thinking. And finally, we'll look ahead at the enormous, incredible challenge of building a machine that can actually think for itself.
All right, first things first. Section 1. Before we can even begin to ask if a machine can think, we've got to get on the same page about what real thinking actually is. Because, it's a whole lot more than just crunching numbers or processing data.
This idea of echtes denken, or real thinking, gets to the heart of it. It's not just about processing information, it's about understanding. Think about it like this. A calculator can solve a super complex equation perfectly, but it has no earthly idea what math is. A mathematician, on the other hand, feels the concepts behind the symbols. That's the difference we're talking about. It's about having an internal sense of meaning, a subjective experience.
And this chart just lays out that difference so clearly. Just look at the left side. Under human thinking, you've got understanding, consciousness, genuine creativity. Now look over to the right at AI processing. It's all about pattern matching, statistical prediction, and just mashing up data it's already seen. It's like we're running on completely different operating systems. And that's not just a small difference, it's a profound one.
But let's be absolutely clear about something. Just because AI doesn't think like us, that does not mean it isn't incredibly powerful. Actually, in some ways, its abilities are nothing short of superhuman. So for this next section, let's explore the genuine superpowers of today's AI.
Yeah, AI shines exactly where we humans tend to struggle, especially with scale. It can spot tiny patterns in data sets so massive that we could never, ever analyze them ourselves. It can work around the clock, 24/7, at inhuman speeds, and it never gets tired. And these large language models, they've basically read the entire internet and can synthesize that information for you in seconds. These aren't just skills, these are legitimate superpowers. Okay, so we've seen the superpowers. They're amazing. But now we have to look at the other side of that coin. Section 3 is all about AI's fundamental limits, and this is where that whole illusion of a thinking machine really starts to crumble. You see, the core issue is this. AI is playing a game with symbols, words, pixels, but it has absolutely no clue what they mean. It can mimic a logical argument so well it's convincing, but it's not actually reasoning. This makes it really brittle. You change one tiny detail from what it's been trained on, and the whole thing can just fail spectacularly. And maybe most important of all, it has zero self-awareness. It can't tell you it's uncertain because it doesn't even know what it doesn't know. And this analogy is just perfect. An AI, especially a big language model, can sound unbelievably intelligent and articulate. It's like a parrot that has learned to repeat incredibly complex phrases. But we all know the parrot doesn't understand the conversation, right? It's just mimicking sounds. Well, the AI is doing something very similar, just with statistical patterns and text instead of sounds.
This slide right here gets to the absolute core of it. AI is not a problem solver. It's a prediction machine. When you ask it a question, it's not thinking about an answer. It's just calculating word by word what the most statistically probable response should be based on all the text it's ever consumed. It's what some call imitation thinking. It looks and feels like the real thing, but the engine running underneath is completely different.
Now, this gap between imitation and reality, it's not just some philosophical debate. It actually creates very real, very serious dangers when we start using these systems in the real world. So for Section 4, let's unpack the serious risks of relying on this imitation thinking.
The first huge risk is what the industry politely calls hallucinations. Honestly, a better word might just be confabulation. Because the AI has no concept of truth, only what sounds plausible, it will confidently just make stuff up. It will invent facts, it will cite academic papers that don't exist, and it presents pure fiction as reality, all with the same unshakable, authoritative tone.
And this is exactly where those hallucinations become so dangerous. Because we humans, we have this thing called automation bias. It's a built-in tendency to overtrust automated systems. Because the AI sounds so confident and, frankly, is often right, we get complacent. We start to get lazy. We stop double-checking its work, and we start handing over our own judgment to the machine. And this quote, which, crazily enough, comes from an AI chatbot that was built to mimic Albert Einstein, it just perfectly captures the danger. The real threat isn't some sci-fi movie where machines become human. No, it's a much more subtle and maybe more immediate risk, that in our reliance on AI, we start to adopt its mechanical, uncritical, pattern-matching way of processing the world.
And there's already evidence this might be happening. A study from MIT found that people who used AI for certain writing tasks actually showed less brain activity and remembered less of what they even wrote. It's that classic use it or lose it effect, you know? When we start outsourcing our thinking, our cognitive muscles, the ones for critical analysis and creativity, they can start to get weak.
So if today's AI isn't really thinking, what would it actually take to build one that does? Well, in our final section, let's look down the long road ahead, at the path to a genuinely thinking machine. And believe me, it is one of the biggest challenges in all of science.
Researchers have identified some absolutely monumental hurdles. First, an AI needs true semantic understanding to actually grasp what words mean. It needs internal world models, a basic common-sense understanding of how things in the world work. It's got to have self-awareness to know its own limits. It needs to be able to truly generalize its knowledge to brand new situations. And this one might sound weird, but many argue it needs embodiment, a physical body to learn about the world by actually touching it and moving through it.
Now, the good news is, researchers are attacking these incredible problems from every possible angle. Some are trying to combine AI's pattern-matching genius with old-school, explicit, rule-based knowledge. Others are putting AI into robot bodies so it can learn by interacting with the physical world. And some are even trying to build systems that can understand cause and effect or even reflect on their own answers to catch their own mistakes.
And that leaves us with the final and most crucial question. As our AIs get better and better at imitating us, as they become more convincing mimics, are we actually getting closer to real thinking, or are we just getting more and more skilled at creating an illusion? The answer to that question is going to define our future with this technology.